to the Compound Podcast. This is episode 229. I wrote it down beforehand so I didn't have to guess. Episode 229 of the Compound Podcast presented by Parse Rum. I love Parse, you love Parse. Go to Benny's, get your Parse. It's the perfect time of year to start sipping on the 8-year and the 12-year. Actually, I pulled the 8-year out down here in Austin yesterday. Showed it to a friend. Gotta love it. Dakota's been drinking it every night, right before bed. A little sip.
That's what puts me to sleep is a little bit of Parse. It's good stuff.
Parse Rum and playoff baseball. Go to Benny's, get your Parse. Go Tigers.
R.I.P.
Tigers are gone.
They hit the end of the road there. They got 2-2 going into Game 5. Scooble on the mound. Felt like that was a really good opportunity for them.
It's hard as a pitcher to face the same team a few days later in the same ballpark without shadows. It was a completely different game. I feel like everything kind of lined up for the Guardians there. They did a really good job of escaping jams. Again, back to Scooble. I mean, that's your guy. Like, you, obviously you're upset you lost, but like, you lost with your number one, like the number one, and it was one pitch. It just sucks that it kind of came down to one pitch.
Yeah, that was a grand slam by Thomas, right?
Yes.
Which is pretty cool, too, because the Guardians go out. They get Lane Thomas from the Nats at the deadline, but that wasn't like a big they didn't make any big time offensive moves. They kind of trusted that Jose Ramirez and Naylor kind of carrying the middle, and they brought in Thomas, plays really good defensive center field. He had a really good year last year offensively, and he comes up with a big knock. I think he's driven in like 9 runs in the postseason so far for them. But they just play good fundamental baseball. They do a really good job, and their bullpen is lights out.
Yeah, they have like 3 or 4 guys that I feel like have thrown every single game of the postseason. They've just been nails every single time they're out there. I was going to say it's a lot of names of guys that, bad of me to say, but like I hadn't heard of a ton of them. And like that Eric Sabrowski, I feel like is thrown every game, and he's been really good. And then like that Avila.
The lefty Heron legitimately threw all 5 of the DS games. They had a couple.
Yeah.
They had 2 guys, I think, that threw in all 5 games.
Heron's
I think Cade Smith might be the best of them all. Like you said, Zach, like I watched him throw and I was like, this dude's gross. And then you just get to Clase eventually, which still, I think we talked about it last week, but like the Carpenter homer off Clase is just wild to me.
Tigers scored 2 out of 3 times off of him.
It's going to just sound like I don't know. I didn't like that when he like struck out Carey the next time he faced him, he kind of stared him down. I don't know. I don't know why that bothered me a little bit. I was like, chill out. You're in his book already.
Yeah, I don't know. I figured he was probably just pissed more than anything. It was just like a fired up for himself moment.
For sure.
Also kind of a pitcher thing though, like if somebody owns you, like you still get them out 6 out of 10 times, like if somebody absolutely owns you, you still get them out like more than half the time. So like you got the advantage there.
Unless it's Garrett Cole versus Devers. Sorry, Tom.
Hey, can I just ask a quick question? Now we're in the CS. Okay, we got the Yanks and we got the Guardians. Yanks are up 1-0. We're game 2's on right now. At what point, it's a 4-2 game right now. Like at what point how long do you save Clase? Like let's say you're down 1 in the 8th inning of game 2, like do you bring him in? Like game 3, if you're down 2-0 in this series, like yeah, you're definitely bringing him in because you need to win that game. But like, do you bring him in tonight if it's a 4-3 game?
I mean, why not? You have an off day tomorrow.
Yeah, and he didn't throw game 1. I feel like you could probably put him out there.
Absolutely, why not? Get him work in a semi leverage spot, like, and you have an off day.
Let me go to the next question.
No, I think he's good. You didn't ask me, but I think he's good. Just keep him in the bullpen. Save him for next year. I don't even think you need him this series.
He's already thrown a lot of innings. Let me ask you another question. Do you think there's too many off days in the playoffs?
Dude, one series was weird.
I think you have to get like your starters time to come back. I don't want to watch, and I could be in the minority here. I don't want to watch teams number 5 starters in the postseason. Like I want Garrett Cole throwing 2, even sometimes the guys throw 3 times in a series. I want to see some psychos out there throwing multiple times on short rest.
But dude, what was it, the last series? The last, I don't know, I think it was a DS. Like You play game 1, off day game 2, play game 2, off day game 3, right?
I think they did game 1 off day, game 2 same city. Then they traveled, so they had an off day.
Yeah,
Played 2 in a row, got an off day before game 5.
But I think it's fine. I
I
think
get it.
they
Yeah,
did
it's
it.
just
They did a
tough.
good job of spreading out the DS to where like they did the AL on the same day, and then like the NL was on the same day, and they were offset.
In a 7-game series,
Mm-hmm.
are you even going to get to the 4th starter, or are you only going to see the first 3 starters?
I didn't the Yankees add Stroman to this roster? Like I could see Stroman getting game 4. Like I would think it's just team by team dependent. Like the Dodgers, probably not because they only have Flaherty, Bueller, and Yamamoto. So they'll probably go bullpen for that 4th game. But like the Yankees, I think will go 4 starters. I want to go back to the DS, the Padres. I don't think it got talked about enough that Dylan Cease threw game 4 on 4 days, 3 days rest, on short rest. First time in his career ever throwing on short rest. I don't know if it was the shortest outing of career. Had to be pretty close. Inning in 2/3. Didn't throw well. They lose that game. Then they go to Darvish game 5. Darvish threw well, but they lose that game. I don't love bringing someone back that quick that's never done it. And then, like, it didn't work. Obviously, you wanted to have Darvish for game 5, but I don't know. I was looking at that, and I was like, why are you forcing Dylan Cease here when you could have him for game 5?
In San Diego, like that place is a zoo. That place is
Crazy.
unbelievable. And I remember here, I wanted to bring that up, talking about Cease. Did they give an explanation on it?
Well, I did not see anything, but I'm guessing it's like I said. They're like, oh, like even if we go Cease here and we lose, like we have Darvish for game 5, and Darvish threw really well.
Right.
But I just feel like you set Cease up to fail, like first time ever throwing that short route.
For sure. Dude, I feel like that's probably the best rivalry right now in baseball.
Yeah, it's got to be
I mean, Tom,
the most
come on.
heated for sure.
Yeah.
Yankees Red Sox has
do
lost
the Yankees
a lot
have
of
a
luster.
rivalry with somebody that's better?
I mean, Yankees, Red Sox. Right? Yeah, I mean, I'm always going to ride for Yankees, Red Sox. I understand your point that probably you could argue at this moment, Padres, Dodgers is hotter than Yankees, Red Sox is. But I guess I'm biased. I'm always going to say Yankees, Red Sox. Plus, even
Yeah,
we got a potential of a Subway Series also going on.
Yeah, but
right
that's not like a rivalry though. Like
it's not
it's
like
a story. It's a cool storyline. Like if they play in the World Series, it'd be sick.
yeah, I mean, Mets and Yankee fans don't like each other though either. I would say.
I feel like that's kind of like an foregone thing. Like it was kind of growing up when like in the 90s and stuff. Or like again, I don't know. I've talked about it before. Like I don't know many Yankee or Mets fans that absolutely despise one another, like how it was like when we were growing up. Like I feel like it's I don't know, they don't play like they met up in the World Series. When was it, 99 or 2000? Like
2000.
I'll tell you what though, they meet up in the World Series this year, and you'll find a whole lot of fans that hate each other.
yeah, no, I agree. And I think if the stakes are high like that, but like when they play, like I think this year they played like Tuesday, Wednesday, didn't they? Or like Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and it was like I mean, if I don't know, I feel like it would be a huge marquee. I mean, granted, they are like there's always that in state and city like rivalry, but
I understand your point. Like I don't think any Yankee fan would say their first rival's the Mets. And I don't think most Met fans, most Met fans wouldn't say their first rival's the Yankees. I do think there are some Met fans that might say their first rival is the Yankees because there is that big brother, little brother complex a little bit with those two teams. But I'd still think more Mets fans would probably point to the Braves or Phillies. So yeah, it is like a secondary rivalry, but I do think it's a rivalry. And like I can think back to like I remember the Luis Castillo game, like when he dropped that pop up and Teixeira scores from first. Like there are specific moments that stand out to me in that rivalry where it's like that was a game that like I remember listening to WFAN the next day. That was a good day on WFAN the next day where people were just losing their minds about it. So I agree, it's not the main rivalry for either team, but if they get going in the World Series, it's gonna be fun.
It'll be sick. No, I think that'll be really cool.
If there's any corruption in baseball, they got to get Yankees Mets to the World Series, right? Like
but it's a win-win for them. It's either, I mean, most likely, if the Yankees,
they're sitting there though, and they're saying we can't go Guardians Dodgers. Like Manfred's like we can't. Sorry, Cleveland fans, we can't.
I think the obviously the Subway Series World Series would be amazing, but I do think to get the West Coast market plus have Ohtani in the World Series, I think Dodgers Yankees is probably the.
My friends and I were having this discussion, and I did go back and look at the historical ratings for the World Series. And when it was a Subway Series, now granted, part of this is also Yankees fatigue. Like that was the Yankees' fourth World Series appearance in like 5 years, but that World Series was significantly lower. I mean, like 2 to 3 points, but enough that it was a noticeable drop from years previously. So I would think baseball would probably prefer having Dodgers Yankees. Those are the two biggest markets, two teams with giant fan bases. Obviously, I don't think they're going to be upset if they get Yankees Mets. Like that's a very good consolation prize. But yeah, I think Guardians Dodgers is the one that they're probably really like we don't, or Guardians Mets probably is like no thanks.
Yeah,
I think tough.
It'd be tough to go from Subway Series or Yankee or Judge Ohtani to Guardians. I mean, the one thing you have with the Guardians is they haven't won since '48, so that's the one thing that'll get going if they make the World Series again.
Yeah,
I think a Subway Series would be sick.
I think it would be sick too. I do think just that where those two teams are at right now with LA and San Diego, a lot of star power. The way that San Diego was playing, the fan base is not liking each other. But I thought it felt like San Diego kind of had that series under control, and the Dodgers were on the way out. Pretty impressive for them to
win. They went scoreless. Scoreless. Yeah. Crazy, that lineup.
It's also crazy that like the biggest question mark, and I still think it's the biggest question mark. Their bullpen's been nails, but like the biggest question mark for the Dodgers is their pitching staff. And like they went scoreless for that long. And I'm like, wait a minute, they're supposed to be bad. Like this is supposed to be what's going to cost them a World Series if they can't get outs. So I'm curious to see how the rest of this series goes, but I would kill for Yankees Mets. Zach, would you go to a game?
No.
But you're a New Yorker. Yeah,
no.
You'd go, you sicko.
I got cable.
SeatGeek, we get SeatGeek to sponsor Zach and I to go.
Oh,
Tom, you mentioned the fan. Tell you where the fan was in a very friendly place to be was this morning.
Yeah. How we feeling? How we feeling about we'll go to football corner early. Go to football corner early.
Oh, I'm hurt.
You can't talk football already. Ian will get pissed.
I'm hurt.
You can't.
What about Rodgers?
He stinks.
He's just
he stinks. He stinks. 3 straight weeks with a drive to win the game, and he did not convert any of them. He stinks. True or false?
Yeah, but let's relax. That guy is unbelievable.
In 2024?
Those if you like the throws that he makes are still ridiculous. He's playing like listen. I'm not getting into this right now. I'm not.
You brought it up.
How you brought it up.
I didn't. Yeah. I was talking about the fan. And we were gonna move on. It was a quick little tidbit.
What is this? A Northeast podcast? We're talking about the radio network.
What's the fan?
In New York?
I don't know what's going on.
The fan is at 660 WFAN, the sport New York Sport Radio, and it's like
Mike and the Mad Dog basically invented sports talk as it is on WFAN in the 80s. And
it's Scott came over last night and stayed over, and we went and got coffee this morning. And I was like, Scott, I'm gonna turn this on for you. And it was like he started dying laughing. And like, Cleveland is pretty serious, obviously, about their sports too. And this guy was screaming at the top of his lungs, calling in, talking about the Jet. It was really funny how he was in the car for it too.
I got a little bit of beef with you for not spending the day with Scotty today. He spent a day exploring the city and you didn't go hang out with him.
I went and saw my brothers.
All right. You got me there.
That's right.
The vibe of WFAN, I mean, it's very similar to, Waddle and Sylvie, a lot of shows in Chicago. But you basically have to imagine people with thick New York accents calling in and just screaming about the Jets. Joe, what's going on with this Rodgers guy? He was supposed to be the savior. He's not the savior. All right,
bro, it's spot on. Yeah. It's spot on.
Zach, dude. Be honest. Have you ever attempted to call in?
No, never. No.
No.
I truly only listen. I usually only do if they win, and it's usually on like Monday morning, and that's it. I'll listen to Boomer Esiason, and Gio, and Like during baseball season, I can't listen to it. Obviously, especially this year, I never listened to it.
We're gonna move on from Northeast Radio, and I'm gonna go Danny Mueller's hot take early today because I think it's a good one. We were talking about this today, and he doesn't like the home field advantage setup. He doesn't think that in the playoffs, the home field advantage is really a home field advantage. I mean, you're talking a 7-game series. He doesn't like the two games at home, then you go 3 on the road, then you get the last 2 at home. Doesn't think that's really home field. Right now in a 7-game set, you play 2. If you have home field advantage, you play the first 2 at home. And he said that almost always that splits a lot. 2-game set splits a lot, and then you're going on the road. You have to play 3 games on the road, and you basically have to win a series to go back home with an advantage.
Yeah, I mean, I think the best way to do it is 2-2-1-1-1. That's just so much travel that, like, imagine the World Series Yankees Dodgers, and it's like 2-2-1-1-1, and you play all 7. It's like that is so many flights.
You're going coast to coast.
Yeah, I do agree that like you win one, and all of a sudden like you flip it, but it's like you can't really do 2-2-1-1-1. That just would take.
That's what basketball does. Basketball does 2-2.
It takes so long, dude. It starts in April and ends in almost July.
Yeah, it does.
That's a lot, dude.
Like, but I don't think that's a hot take though. I think that's pretty accurate.
I think most people would agree with that take. Like, I would personally prefer that format, but that, as they just said, like, logistically, how do you make that work?
What if you went 3-3-1? What if you got the first 3 at home?
The problem is, like, they always say a series doesn't start till the road team wins, and if you go down 3-0, like, that's difficult to ask you to win 3 in a row at home.
True. 3-3-1. That'd be wild.
3-3-1 would be crazy. It also, like, from a money standpoint, like, you do have to guarantee the away team some home games for the tickets.
That's a good point. Yeah.
You can get swept and only have one home game.
That's tough.
That's businessman Ian always using his brain right there.
Well, Ian, can I ask you, the one thing I've always been curious about is best of 5. Baseball's the last of the major sports that still has a best of 5, and it's kind of surprising to me because it's the sport with the longest season. It feels like that's the obvious spot that, let's see, Dakota's way ahead of me.
Tommy's back. He's fine. Judge is fine. He's fine. Everybody
we could have got a good. This is why you need to let me produce the podcast, because if you hadn't got a good, I could have had a natural reaction. Now I can't give you a natural reaction.
You were mid-sentence, though. I had to make sure you were looking because you're mid-sentence.
Finally. Thank you.
People were, finally he says
that is your natural reaction.
You're such a stick individual.
I mean, I love the guy. He hasn't been good. I'd like him to be good. I'm sorry. I'd like us to win the World Series.
Disgusting.
Probably.
Before we do full Yankees talk.
This is me at the most debased level I could be, is rooting for the Yankees in the playoffs. I understand that about myself. I don't understand. I like this version of myself, but I only can be this version of myself where I watch the Yankees during the playoffs. And yeah, I would like our best player to have hit a home run. That was good.
Your best player is Giancarlo Stanton. He's a good player.
It's funny because I am such a hypocrite right now, because this is how I watch Jets games.
I couldn't believe you didn't like kick Scott out after the loss.
No, he was fine. He was great. Believe me, I gave him some stern warnings to start.
How is Judge up there that high in career postseason homers for the Yankees?
Man, you would have thought that was his first one ever.
He has been, to Tom's defense, him and Wells, great players, not knocking them as players, have had terrible postseasons at the plate.
You know that it's gonna happen.
I'm not even worried about Judge. I just said finally. Like, I'm just glad that he broke through, because you could tell it was wearing on him as well. Like, you could see it.
Yeah,
that's a good spin. That was a good spin right there, Tom.
Thank you. I used to work in Yankees PR. I'm great at it. All right, best of 7s. Ian, was that ever?
My home field advantage talk didn't go very far. That was a good topic. I'm going to scratch that. We'll try that one.
Judge hit a homer.
Sorry, not great. No, lack of focus on the podcast today. We're going to get it back on the rails. Tom, I do think that very soon the 5 game will be eliminated and they'll go to 7. I do like the 5er though. I think the 5er's cool.
It's quick, dude. It's wild how quickly it feels.
It feels really fast, and I think it's super. I think the 5 game's super exciting, but I do think I think they'll probably try to go to like a 5-game wild card and a 7-game CS. I mean, more playoff baseball is more money. I think they'll try to extend the playoffs out. I just don't know logistically how they'll do it. If they'll
Here's
try
what
to
we
take
do.
away postseason or regular season games and add
Yep.
postseason games, I think that's probably like you go to 154 and then you extend the postseason out a little bit. That's probably how it goes. I just don't know logistically how they can make that work. But
What logistically, like, what wouldn't work about it? Like trying to get deals and TV stuff quickly?
I mean, Aaron Judge loses 8 games a year to hit homers, and he's trying to put up career numbers.
Yeah, but
so that's
like
8 games over the course. That's 80.
in...
Over the course, he loses half a season over the course of 10 years. I don't know. It's just baseball. The like tradition.
Yeah, no, I get it.
Baseball.
But 154 is a historic number. Like they played 154 for a long time. So that, I guess, the one. I completely understand your point, and I think it's a fair point to bring up. But it at least is moving it back to where, like, that was the argument when Maris and Mantle were doing it. Was that Judge, was that Ruth did it in less games. So that's always been sort of a discussion point among this anyway.
That's
I don't think 154 would be bad. I think, the 162 is a lot, 154 is a lot. They're all a lot, but I do think that there'll be some playoff expansion because there's just so much money in playoff baseball.
Everyone can use code COMPOUND10 for 10% off any tickets on SeatGeek, whether you're a new customer or not. No matter how many times you've bought tickets using SeatGeek before, Compound 10 is going to get you 10% off your next order. So take out your phone, open up the SeatGeek app, and add code COMPOUND10 to your account. What are you waiting for? Guys, we've talked about it. The green means good. Green dot's good. Red dot's bad. Do it now because this offer is only available for a limited time. Code COMPOUND10 for 10% off your next order.
Austin Wells just hit 7 balls that at bat at an exit velo of 110. That was the hardest out you've ever seen in your life.
You know what's hard for people to follow on a audio-only instrument that we're doing here is you watching the Yankees game. It's probably hard for people on a Thursday when this is a Yankees game on a Tuesday. You're just jumping back and forth. People in their ears right now are going, what's going on?
Well, when I just tried to chime in the last conversation, you kept cutting me off and wouldn't let me chime in, so I just switched it.
There's probably somebody that just said, who's Austin Wells? And what's he doing?
Well, then they don't
Do you want to talk about home field advantage in the playoffs?
We did. What more do you want me to say?
Sorry.
I don't know if we've ever been this off the rails this early into the podcast. We're not even like half an hour in, and we're just in chaos mode.
Yeah, it's a mess over here. I'm writing down a playoff format where home field advantage, where the away team gets game 7 at home. I'm trying to figure this out.
That's got to be
How would that work?
The only way that happens is 4-3. You start with 4 at home.
2-2-2-1. But the 1 is the team that actually doesn't have home field advantage. Would you trade if you had home field advantage? You won 110 games during the regular season. Would you trade? You get the first 2 at home, the next 2 away, and the next 2 at home, and then if you go to a game 7, you have to go on the road.
No. I mean, they've shown that game 7s historically they've been won by the home team like 80% of them. I don't have the number in front of me, but it's a high percentage.
Yeah, I don't think I would do that trade-off. I think you want the biggest game of your lives taking place at home if you won 110 games.
Remember when they used to do it in the world, the All-Star game determined who got the
that was the
crazy, dude.
Isn't it now just like best overall record?
Yeah.
Okay, can I give you some stats that Google just gave me? No free ads.
Yes.
Winner take all game 7s. Home field advantage is not a big factor. Home team is 19-21 in the World Series. Home team is 30-27 in the CS. Home team is 64-66 in all winner take all postseason games. But since 95, teams with home field advantage in the World Series have won the championship 68% of the time. So this isn't just game 7. This is like home field advantage for the whole series have won 68% of the time. It's also like if you have home field advantage, you earn that during the year, so you're probably the better team.
Probably a better team anyway.
So it doesn't matter in game 7 but it matters overall. But that just probably means you're the better team. So I don't know. Interesting. I'm gonna propose every different structure. Okay, and we're gonna and you guys are gonna look up and you're gonna be like, why are they going 1-1-1-1-1-1? They're going 7 individual. I don't get it.
Do you guys get say like in those meetings? Like, does the PA does the MLB come with ideas, or do you guys go in there and be like, let's try this out?
Mostly it's MLB, but it could be either way.
Yeah, let's get Ian Happ in there for
a couple things.
The new format.
Yeah,
the road team gets home field advantage, or the worst team gets home field advantage. Yeah, let's get crazy.
Tom, this is like the first playoffs that have been cold, right? Like they were talking
in a while
for how it was like it's actually feeling like a playoff game again. It's like 50 degrees out. Guys are wearing turtlenecks. Like I feel like when you guys wearing turtlenecks, I think of Jeter and stuff like back in those days.
Volpe just had like the hand stitched Yankee logo turtleneck. And I won't lie, whatever we were talking about, I stopped listening for a second and was like, oh my God, it looks like Jeter in like 98. Like he looks, because it's like this, obviously, like there's so many, they're all the comparisons you can make between Volpe and Jeter. Like people have made them 1,000 times, but it does, for a second there, I was like, wow, it really does look like Jeter. And I did hear Boone also say like, it's cool for it to really feel like October baseball.
Yeah, like they were talking, I think Boone might have given an interview. He was like, yeah, the next 2 nights are going to feel like it's going to be like a little chilly here. It's going to feel like it's, back in October again. Like that. I feel like even in football, Dakota, there hasn't really, not obviously right now, but like lately, last few years, there hasn't been like snow games or anything.
I feel like we're teetering on a global warming conversation here.
We are. We can go back. I'm just saying, we were talking about like the feel of playoffs.
Yes. No, like I think it was Jimenez had on
the
hand warmer, and I was like, yes, I love seeing that.
Guys, yeah, dude, blowing in.
I always, for some reason, my brain always goes to the Phillies with like Jimmy Rollins and Chase Utley, like, and I always picture that in my head of like, oh, that had to be so cold out there,
dude, like you're playing so long, and you don't really play in those conditions unless like the season just starts. And then for 5-6 months, you're playing when it's perfect weather. Then the biggest games of your life, it's like, hey, I need a hand warmer.
Yeah.
We're 4 northern guys. What's the coldest game you guys can ever remember playing? There must be like, you guys must have like some Sacred Heart game, Zach.
Getting hit sideways by sleet. We're playing URI. I'll never forget. We're all standing out there and we're just like kind of looking around. We're like, bro, what are we doing? This is unbelievable. It's like unsafe to ski in.
We were playing in college. I forget where, but I was in the dugout. It was like the 8th inning, and they were warming someone else up, and I'm sitting there like freezing, like shaking. Someone else on our team is warming up, and then we get like a bigger lead. This is like my sophomore year, so I wasn't very good yet. So I was like the mop-up guy. So they go, Mekkes, you're in. Go get hot. And I'm like, what? I can't even feel my arm right now. And I had to run down there and try to get hot. I threw horrible. I went like walk, base hit, walk. I'm like, I can't feel my shoulder. It sucks.
It's a different game, bro.
Well, the thing is, the advantage realistically goes to the pitcher.
Yes, dude.
Like if you can get warm and stay warm, but
nobody wants a 95-mile sinker into my hands.
Because even barrel probably doesn't feel great.
Ian, those days at Wrigley when the wind's blowing in, you're probably squinting up there, and you're like, bro.
I mean, I grew up in Pittsburgh and played at Cincinnati in February and March. I mean, it was cold. Like we have a lot of cold games. Shoveled snow off the field.
That's what I was gonna say. Yeah. Dude, we didn't have a field, and we practiced on the football turf, and we had to shovel the.
Yeah, we did that at college too.
In high school, we would take ground balls in the parking lot.
Oh yeah,
and there would be salt, road salt. You get a bad hop off road salt, and then in college we had turf field, and we would shovel the field so that we could play. But the coldest games I've ever played are all at Wrigley.
We attempted to shovel our field, and it was grass. We tried to shovel grass. It did not work. We
just taking chunks of grass up with you.
We did like foul in front of like our dugout. It took like 3 hours, and our coach was like, "All right, this isn't gonna work." I'm like, "Dude, this would have taken us 5 days."
Yeah, we had a snowstorm in Cincy like right before the start of the season, or maybe it was right after in like the end of February. And I remember the whole team, you're talking like 35 guys, shoveled like one strip from the infield dirt all the way to the outfield fence, like one strip that might have been 5 feet wide. And it was like, all right, I don't think this is gonna. It's like it took us hours. Same thing. Like it took us hours, and it's like, well, so let's wait for it to melt.
I mean,
it's kind of fun though. It's kind of fun playing in the cold. I don't know. I don't know why.
Funny because I hate it. I was talking to somebody about this. Like, it's brutal when you're out there, but like, it's fun. Everybody is just freezing, and there's just like it's just like, hey, bro,
yeah,
I feel it. But like when you're done, like you're changing and everything, you're like, it was bad, but you're like, it wasn't that bad. I don't know, dude. Like,
that's a hot take from you.
Dakota's take.
Dakota's take
off this person when it comes to weather too. But like, I don't know. It's not a real. It doesn't feel like a real game when you're out there though. Like,
well, that's the problem. They all still count.
Right. I know.
I get fired up if I go 1 for 4, like,
oh, dude,
1 for 3 with a walk in a Wrigley game blowing in. I'm like, that was the best day ever. That's amazing. I love that. I loved every second of it. Dakota's take was, it's great. I love cold games. Guys in the bullpen with 4 sweatshirts on.
Heaters. Sitting in front of heaters.
Yeah, gets a lather going so that he can come in and get 3 outs while guys are shivering who have been standing in the field.
No.
I mean, he's throwing to basically snowmen. He's throwing to twigs. It's like, how good luck. And then he gets 3 outs, and then he goes and sits down and puts his hoodie back on, and he's like, oh, that was a lot of fun. Like, yeah, I'm sure it was. I'm freezing in left field, shivering. I got 7 hand warmers trying to come in and get my bat in front of the heater so the pine tar can actually have a little bit of stick so I can go up there and face you.
That is
you're wrong. You're absolutely wrong. First of all, we don't have heaters. Second of all, imagine Des Moines, Iowa sitting out in the wind.
Hey,
this is a known scientific fact. This is a scientific fact. What keeps you warmer when you're moving around or when you're sitting in a chair for 2 straight hours in the cold? You guys are moving around
wind
playing
sprints up and down the dugout.
No, that's not realistic. I'm saying you guys are moving around playing all games, staying warm. I'm sitting there frozen, stuck to the seat, icicles coming off my nostrils, and then I got to all of a sudden warm up just as hard.
Dansby and I talk about this one game 2 or 3 times a year. When Atlantic came, I think it was 2018, Atlantic came to Wrigley in April. We got snowed out, I think maybe the day before. It was so cold. It was so cold and frigid. Wind was blowing in at 1,000,000. Cubbies went down like 8-0. I think we scored like 11 to come back. It was the highest scoring sub 30-degree day you've ever seen. It must have been like 28 degrees at the wind chiller. It was so cold.
Another thing, this is going to be a sick transition for me. I'm so good at transitions. You know what else is hard to play with? Plantar fasciitis. You know who has that? Brandon Nimmo of the New York Mets. Boom. Well, I'm so good at transitions.
Brandon Nimmo, Bruce Bolt. BruceBolt.us.
Oh, come on.
Brandon Nimmo, BruceBolt.us. Brandon Nimmo wears Bruce Bolts. I wear Bruce Bolts. Zack wears Bruce Bolts. BruceBolt.us. Go to Bruce Bolt to get all of your baseball needs. Fall ball. It's coming up. You got to train for the winter. Go to Bruce Bolt. They got shorts. They got long sleeve. This is a Bruce Bolt long sleeve. Really soft. Really nice.
You've devastated Zack. Zack is now just reduced to Surrender Cobra on the couch.
Did you see me going like this, Dakota? I was like, one more, and then into Bruce.
Yeah, I got it. Jumped right in there. It's called being the host of the pod. I'm right.
And you know what else the host of the pod always does? His mic always comes unplugged and it sounds terrible. That's you right now, Ian. I got you, Zack. I got you back.
That might come unplugged. Oh no, not with that great ad read.
But Bruce Bolt when you're talking about US.
It's tough when you're talking about what a great host you are, and your mic comes unplugged.
Uh-huh.
Kind of undercuts it.
But back to the Brandon Nimmo thing. Playing first, we'll talk more about the Mets, but Brandon, playing with plantar fasciitis, that's crazy. Wow, people miss months for that. I feel like.
Isn't that what
they're grinding?
Yes.
Isn't that tears in your tendons in your foot? Something like that. I'm not a doctor. We're going to say that's what it is. That seems accurate. But either way, still out there competing.
Dude, I saw him limping the other day on a foul ball, and then I didn't see that until after the game. And I'm like, dude, especially with adrenaline and everything, like what Rizzo said, obviously that helps a bunch. Could you like he's limping bad. Like that's gotta hurt, especially with all the adrenaline going through your body for it to be that bad still.
Yeah.
That's gotta be a pretty bad situation.
I played last year with the planner, and I don't think it was even bad planner. I think it was just like mild to moderate planner, and it hurt. It was like every time you would run or like after the game, I would wake up. It felt like my foot was made of wood. It's not great. And like if you have like a really serious case of planner, I think that's a big no-brainer.
Wood.
Did feel like I had a
can
peg
Jesse
walking
Winker
around.
like? Is he not the best outfielder? Because like, why wouldn't you DH Nimmo? I feel like that's one where it's like, all right, this guy can't run. Like, let's not have him be on his feet for half the game. Like, let's get him in here where he can just focus on hitting.
That's a good point. I think Winker has historically been a average outfielder. I actually think he had a decent year out there this year in the first half with the Nats. Yeah, it would make sense if you get him off his feet. I mean, maybe if he just keeps moving, it feels okay. I don't know.
He probably wants to be out there, but yeah, like that's one where it's like, let's give the guy a chance to get through this season or get through this postseason. Also, Mark Vientos, that's a good ball player. That guy can swing, bro. He can swing it.
Big difference maker for that lineup. Like they have with Lindor and Alonso and Nimmo, like that's a good mix. But when you put Vientos, it gives them a lot of depth. It just really lengthens it out with the way that he's swinging the bat this year. And I've seen some of the bats, like he hits the ball hard, man.
How old is he, Zach? Like 23? Isn't he super young?
24, 25, I think.
Goodness. Yeah, that series is going to be a really good one, I feel like.
Especially for the Mets to get that one the other day.
Yeah, I think that was huge because if you lose both, you go back and you're like, uh-oh. Like we pretty much have to sweep at home because otherwise we're going to have to go back and win 2 in LA.
Yeah.
Unless you have the Ian Happ format and you're getting game 7, then you're not going to
work. That's true. That's a good point, Tom.
Well, it's a good format. I think it's going to be a good series. I don't think the Dodgers are going to do the whole shutout thing for 3 games again. Obviously their lineup has been great and they're going to have to find a way to kind of contain. Lindor's been fantastic and fun to watch. Like, I think it's going to be a good series. That's a 6 or 7 gamer for me.
Yeah, I agree. I see it definitely going well. Yeah, I mean, it has to go back to LA unless someone wins all 3, but I think it could go 7.
I got a 7 gamer there. Good for baseball. Good for baseball. 2 big markets.
Dude. Especially coast to coast.
Yeah, that is tough. That's what I was thinking about Yankees Dodgers for the World Series, but I was like, they're doing that right now with Mets Dodgers. It's a long flight.
I have two things. 2 things. I don't know if you guys saw Caleb Williams. They went to London. This is a little bit of football, a little bit of baseball. They went to London, played a football game in London. Caleb Williams in the post-game interview, they had a great game. They won. He was like, yeah, it's a long time away from your own bed, long time away from like your house, and like where just awesome to get the win. And I was thinking to myself, like, they probably left on.
They left on Monday. To be fair, they left on last Monday. They were there for a week just before you.
Really?
Yeah, they went Monday
out there.
That's wild.
Monday to Sunday, right?
Because I think Eberflus said he wanted their bodies to have times to adjust. But yes, continue with what you're saying, Ian.
Yes. Which I think is great because when we went to London and we only had 2 days before the game, it was pretty tough. But like just their schedule and like the way that they travel for away games, but they travel like the day before. Just thought it was really interesting. You look at, a playoff environment like what these guys are going through. It's like every 2 days you're bouncing coast to coast with a 3-hour time difference. And like when and with a game schedule that like in LA, I think yesterday they played a day game, right? They played like
yeah, they did. It was at 1. Everyone was like, why is this game on already? It was kind of weird.
It was a 1 o'clock West Coast for a 4 o'clock East Coast. And, you're just like, if you're on East Coast time, that it's interesting how much in baseball it's just like normal for us. It's normal for us to go on the road for like 10 days. Like a 10-day road trip's a long road trip. Don't get me wrong, but like that's just part of it. And like in another sport, when guys are like, yeah, we were gone for a week. It's like, it was nuts.
You're like, this is great. How do people do this? And you're like, yeah, we happened.
Yeah, it's just like, it's just a Thursday in June for us.
That's why I've never really bought into like the football thing of like, oh, the Ravens are going to play in San Francisco, like they're traveling. I'm like, it can't be that. Like it's for like a day or two. Like it can't really affect them that much. Like they're just good teams. Like I don't buy into that in football for like a day.
It's a little a 1 day or 2 day thing like that to get adjusted is a little different. But I think back to like there hasn't like if I've played on the West Coast, I haven't really been like yawning in the
no.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's never the first game of the series. It's like the first game, like the first day you get out there, like yeah, you might wake up early,
right?
Like
but
like I can't sleep because it's my body thinks that it's 10 a.m. and it's actually 7.
right,
My body thinks it's 9, it's 7. Like so you might not get great sleep, but if you're trying to get jacked up for one game, but then like the second day when you also can't sleep, you wake up again and it's like 7:30, like you only made it to like 8, you're like ah. And then by the last game of the series, like you finally got to sleep until like 9 o'clock, and you're like, all right, yeah, now I feel. But now it's day 3.
You know what a crazy one is? The Bears played the Jaguars out there. The Jaguars play in London again this coming Sunday, so they're just out in London for like 2 weeks.
Oh, just hanging?
Yeah, just hanging out.
That's cool.
Just chilling in London.
I got one more. You know what I'm on? A little segment here of interviews. This is called the interviews segment. In an interview, Aaron Boone, Caleb Williams got interviewed. Tom's looking at me like I'm crazy, just for all the people who are listening in the ears. That is because Caleb Williams got interviewed after the game. That's where the last take came from. This one is an Aaron Boone interview.
Can I just quickly? I think we might need to change the name because the interview segment sounds like it would have interviews in it, but you're actually just reacting to interviews. So I think we might. All right. Well, audience, let us know if that's confusing. That's confusing to me, but maybe I'm in the minority.
Oh, maybe we'll have to ask people about that. I think it's pretty self-explanatory because of course this segment called interviews is just me seeing interview clips and then reacting to them. And
of course,
this one is, I don't know if you guys saw, Aaron Boone got interviewed before the series, and he was talking about Jose Ramirez being underrated.
Mm-hmm.
And he was very upset. Well, I shouldn't say that. He said if he hears someone, I think this was I'm not going to put this in a direct quote, but it was something like, if I hear somebody call Jose Ramirez underrated again, I'm going to rip my own arms off and throw them. I think that it was something like that. I think he referenced ripping his own arms off. So
I think angry, not like perturbed, like he was annoyed by the question. He's like, he's on the track. He did like the full quote. He's like, he's on the track to be a Hall of Famer. Like, I'm so sick of hearing this guy. Like he said it almost like in a mad way. And it's like, I think he's trying to just say how good Jose Ramirez is, but like he's saying it like he's annoyed that he's being asked about him.
I have the quote since we're weirdly like paraphrasing this insane quote. If I hear how underappreciated, underrated he is from somebody on a network or something, I want to rip my arms off and throw it at the TV. He's a great on-track Hall of Fame player, and everybody knows it, including everyone sitting out here.
I got Tom. Tom saying we were paraphrasing. We nailed that. We were pretty close.
He was ripping his arms off and he was throwing them. We've we're part of the media here, of course. We have said that on our podcast. We think that he's one of the most underrated, if not the most underrated player in baseball. And I will stick to that. I don't care what Aaron Boone says. I would say underrated, if you walk down the street and ask people about Jose Ramirez,
yes,
they wouldn't know who he is. In baseball, is he appreciated? 100%. Inside of Major League locker rooms, Jose Ramirez is very much appreciated. But I think to the general public, still underrated.
I think that's what Boone's get. Like, that's why people say he's underrated. It's like you said, like he's not a household name for like baseball fans,
yes,
probably because he plays in Cleveland. But like, if you follow baseball, like you know who Jose Ramirez is. Like he's a top 10 player in baseball, probably.
100%. 40 bags, almost 30, 38, 39 homers, 41 bags this year.
One short.
Every time he comes up, it's appointment television for me.
I don't know if I believe that.
I swear to God, he's the best switch hitter in baseball right now.
Oh, that makes sense. I'm a little trying to learn from him, perhaps.
The best switch hitter in baseball. He rakes from both sides. He steals 40 bags a year, and I think he might have been a Gold Glove finalist.
He has a very similar swing from both sides too.
Yes, makes me mad.
Yeah, like it's pretty identical.
Yeah, I don't like it. Makes me upset. I get really upset when guys have identical swings because I just can't do it.
I got him as the second best switch hitter in baseball. No one's better than IH8.
That's right.
Heard it here first, folks.
I knew that fluff while I sit at home and do this podcast, and he's playing the playoff.
Are you a go-go finalist again?
Yeah. Thanks.
Nice.
Yeah.
Congrats.
Thanks,
I didn't
guys.
know that.
Thanks.
Going for 3 in a row.
Yeah. Good
Let's
luck.
go
How
crazy.
do we feel?
Yeah, I feel pretty good.
Yeah.
Pretty good. I had a good defensive year. It was pretty solid all the way around. So I played a lot of innings out there. I think I had the most innings left in baseball. A lot of assists this year. I think last year I think we talked about it last year. The numbers were not as good as 22, and I was a little bit like, could have been better out there, and was able to win it again. And this year I felt really good about the bounce back.
Nice. Let's get you 3 in a row.
I don't think you've ever talked about this. Has there been a coach that has helped you a bunch in the outfield?
I mean, Willie Harris has helped me with just like routine stuff.
Yeah.
Like we really, obviously Willie was a part of like me going out there and playing left field every day. He was there and just, worked on developing a routine that was pretty consistent and like first day of the series and the throws and all that stuff. And so, helped with positioning too. Like we would sit down and do the outfield positioning together with Smitty, our analytics guy. So being able to do that together and like really like sit down and like go through like, here's the spray chart for these guys. Here's where I want to play. Here's where I think it makes sense to position everybody. Like just going through that exercise, I think helped me a lot. But I think as a player, like actually going out there and doing it, I think experience is probably the biggest thing. But Jason Hayward was a huge part of just like being out there, watching the way that he did it, learning from him. Like once I went out there every day and like learning how to communicate was probably the biggest thing that he taught me of like especially playing center field next to him, like every single pitch communicating where each other are and what responsibility you have. Like he was the biggest part of like just watching and getting to see it every day at the highest level.
All right. So I have 2 questions. You mentioned your routine in the outfield. I've talked about mine before, how I like to do small glove stuff. What do you like to do? And 2, you mentioned communicating. Is it hard, or like do you get used to somebody playing next to somebody and like their cadences almost like in football? Like, okay, he likes to call it earlier, he likes to call it later. Like you got to play, like PCA played center a bunch this year. Did you start to learn each other's cadences as the year went on? I'll hang up and listen.
Yeah, thanks. The first question about the routine. So the easiest thing about and I've seen infield routines develop a little bit even since I came in and was playing infield. The easiest thing about infield is you can simulate what you're actually going to do in the game. And somebody can hit you fungos and you can practice that thing that you're going to do in the game. And it's actually the one thing that I've seen the last couple of years that I really like is guys will do the soft toss fungo now. It's like a fungo for off just a coach throwing up a ball and hitting it. It isn't like completely game like because they're kind of off. I always struggled as an infielder. Like there's a little bit off the angle. The angle's not quite the same because they hit from the side. They don't hit like from home plate. They hit from the side of the plate. It's not quite the same spin. Like you don't quite get. So now guys do like a coach will soft toss a ball to the fungo hitter. He'll stand on home and he'll hit from that position. And I think that's like a super realistic way to practice ground balls. So like you can pretty closely simulate what it's going to be like in the game. In the outfield, when you're shagging BP, especially at the big league level, right? Like guys hit rockets. Guys hit line drives. They hit rockets. They hook balls in the corner. They hit homers. Like you're not really getting a lot of those like miss-hit fly balls that you get in the game in BP. So it's like, yeah, go and get your shag work in. It's like, well, the best shag work I get is the first round from a left-handed hitter. Like the first round from a left-handed hitter when he's like feeling it out and he's like trying to hit line drives to left field, like that's the best work I'm going to get on the day. And always hit in group 2. So in group 1, early in my career, I had like Riz and Jay Hay and a few guys, a few left-handed Schwarb, a few left-handed hitters that hit in group 1. So I got some good work. Like we have Talkman now who'll hit in group 1, Michael Bush. So like I might get those guys, when they're doing like their work and like, so I might get 5 max, balls if they don't like square blind. So it's really hard to get that work in. So We've worked on a few different things to try to get some of that work in. We don't do a ton of machine stuff, but just like some hand stuff or going over the shoulder. But I do try to get my reads in the outfield at least like a couple really good hard reads. But the biggest thing that I do as far as my routine is throwing because I can control that. So like I'll go and I'll have him hit 3 fungos in the left center gap, and I'll go and do my spin throw to second, and then I'll have him hit 3 down the line and do my exchange 1 hop into second, and I'll take a couple straight on. And I won't throw it home, but I'll come up like I'm going to and throw into second. So that's the biggest thing for me, and I've gotten really good at being able to make that really good 1 hop throw to second and let Nico do his thing and tag guys. So I had 11 assists this year, which was up there for outfielders. And I think I'd say probably 9 of them, maybe more, were at second.
Yeah.
And like and like holding runners and making sure guys don't advance. Like that's a big part of my game. I'm really good at it. And I don't have the strongest arm in the world, but I'm really accurate. So working on that, once a series at least is huge for me. And then what was the second question was about?
Like, you talked about communicating before.
Oh, communicating.
Is it hard?
Yeah. Dude.
Is it hard to learn an outfielder's cadence?
Yeah, the best relationship I ever had was with Jay. When he was playing center and I was playing left, or when he was playing right and I was playing center. The best was when I was playing center and he was playing right, because we would move together. And it was kind of before you had like the exact spot you had to stand on the card. So like we would always move together, and like if he was moving with 2 strikes, like moving in and over, he would tell me, and then I would move with him. Or if I was like feeling something going into the gap, like he would come with. So we had a really good relationship that way, and we knew kind of where each other's starting point was. So it made it a lot easier when the ball was hit to know, like, I know that that's my responsibility because we communicated beforehand. So I've been really trying that with Pete. And this is kind of the most consistent center field I've had, and he's really good at communicating pre-pitch. He's really good at it. He's really good at, hey, this is where I'm going to tell you every pitch where I'm at before this hitter starts the at bat. And like, it's super important. We still really struggled in the left center gap. We missed, 3 or 4 balls this year in the left center gap where we were both going at it, and we either scared each other or didn't, or it was right in between us. So we're still working on that. Wrigley's a pretty unique place in left center. The bullpen comes on you really quick. It's a brick wall, but that's a thing for us that we're really working on.
It's funny you say that. Like, I try to be the over communicative guy. Like, I'm saying something like I am legitimately, if I start to play, especially shortstop, with somebody new, I almost like warn them to start. I'm like, hey, like, I'm probably gonna be a little bit annoying, but like I truly want to cover like everything that could happen, and just
contingency.
Like it almost becomes like, hey, you got everybody, and then after the first pitch, you say it again, like, hey, you got everybody, and I try to make it just so everybody is as comfortable or like on the same page as possible.
I think it's also communicating your weaknesses. Like that was a big thing for me with Pete and his amazing range. Was like, hey, I want you to know that like I'm better at going to the line.
Yeah.
Like, I'm better at going that. I've run into somebody before, Nico and I had a really bad collision, and like, I don't like running at people. Like it's not comfortable for me. And so going to the line is very comfortable for me. I don't have as good of a step to my left, and especially with a lefty, if I'm playing in and over, so if I'm playing towards the line and in, which you would for most lefties, unless it's Yelich or Olsen or one of the guys that like bangs to the opposite field, like that ball that's hit in the left center gap towards the track deep is a really hard angle for me.
Right.
So if I'm playing in and over, it's really hard for me to be running back on an angle at the wall at the center fielder.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, because the route turns into a little bit of banana, because your first step naturally, they say, drop step and get open. Well, it doesn't happen like that. That's like, in a perfect world, that's how you would do it, but you're reading the trajectory of the ball. So that first step is generally pretty lateral into the gap, and then you're kind of bananaing it back as you go. And so the center fielder, because that center fielder has more depth. So my starting point's probably, call it 285 on that play. His is something like 310. So he's got like a 20-foot advantage on just how much depth he has. And so was a big thing of saying like, hey man, that's a really tough play for me. So like if that play happens, like know in your head that like you're busting to like go get that baseball.
Go and get it. Yeah.
And like that pre-pitch communication, I think, is huge.
I agree.
Let's get the people the Sloan screen time. Sloan is the world's leading manufacturer of commercial plumbing systems. They're at the forefront of the green building movement and provide smart, sustainable, and hygienic restroom solutions by manufacturing water efficient products, including flush meters, faucets, sink systems, soap dispensers, and fixtures for commercial, industrial, and institutional markets worldwide. To learn more, visit sloan.com. I'm feeling pretty good about my screen time today. No idea what it is. Could be bad, but I feel pretty good about it.
Mine's still broken, so.
I don't feel good about it. I don't. I lied. I don't feel good.
520.
413.
456.
Yes. That's a win. That's a win for the Sloan screen time. Thank you to our partners at Sloan, and go to Benny's and get your Parsay. That's episode 229 of the Compound Podcast presented by Parsay Rum. If you turn on the Yankees game, you can follow this podcast to see that game.